The story begins with a world that has been split into two by a great conflict, known as the War of the Immortals, between two opposing forces, the mortals, who have a limited lifespan, and the immortals, who are free from death. This war grew fiercer and culminated in a decisive battle between two key figures. On one side was Graham, the hero wielding the sacred X-Sword of Meldia, and on the other was the demon king, Biltol Velfet Velsvolt, leader of the immortals. In the year 1599 of the Continental Era, on the 12th day of the Dragon Month, the final battle between Graham and Biltol occurred. Despite the Demon King's overwhelming power, Graham managed to defeat him. As Biltol lay defeated, he expressed confusion, questioning how a mortal could defeat him despite his superior strength, power, and careful planning. Graham explained that while humans may appear weak due to their short lives, it is their very mortality that drives them to grow stronger and survive. The Demon King interrupted, dismissing Graham's explanation as nonsense, but Graham stood firm, attributing his victory to the resilience and spark of life that humans possess. Biltol, however, ominously declared that just as light exists, so too does darkness, and he would rise again in the face of light, claiming to be undefeated. Graham accepted this, saying he would face the darkness whenever it returned. After bidding farewell, Biltol disappeared and Graham returned home, believing his eternal enemy was vanquished. The scene then shifts to Biltol waking up in a new era with a girl named Makina Solage beside him. She introduces herself as one of the 6 pillars of Dark Companions, specifically the Duchess of Blazing Flames. She reveals that she had been waiting for his rebirth for a year and had overseen the ritual that ensured his reincarnation. Biltol, curious about his surroundings, learns from Makina that they are underground in the Cathedral of Demas Neldor, beneath the former Shinjuku station. However, the world Biltol knew had drastically changed. Around 80 years prior, an event called Phantasian caused the worlds of humanity and Alaneth to merge, leading to widespread devastation. In the first 3 years, 90% of the population perished, governments collapsed, and cities became independent states. 2 major wars erupted between these cities, but the world was finally beginning to heal. Makina explained that technological advancements from Earth's industrial civilization and the magical technology of Alaneth merged after the Phantasian event. Now, in the year 2099, the world had changed beyond recognition. Biltol, shocked by this new reality, marveled at how much mortal civilization had advanced, particularly their ability to detect everything with advanced radars. He attempted to demonstrate his power by casting magic, but the city's warning systems detected it, and Makina quickly informed him that magic use was prohibited, urging him to leave before they were discovered. As they prepared to escape, Biltol noticed the presence of someone familiar but didn't give it much thought. So Makina then explained that after Biltol's death, a ceasefire had been agreed upon between the immortals and mortals. However, after the chaos of Phantasian, the great mortal kingdom fell apart, and immortals were hunted by the major industrial powers, who viewed them as dangerous creatures. Anti-immortal weapons were created, nearly wiping out the immortal population. Biltol inquired about the fate of the 6 pillars of darkness. Makina revealed that the whereabouts of some, such as Maya of the Sorrowful Heights and Rassilon the Blue Storm, were unknown, while Zenil, the Sword of Doom, had sacrificed himself to ensure their escape. Biltol praised Zenil's loyalty but shifted the conversation to another subject, which made Makina visibly nervous. She then tried to change the topic, mentioning that the air in the city was polluted, and offered to buy some of his throat. As she left, Biltol sensed something unusual about her. Which caused advertisements to change. When he confronted her about it, she initially feigned ignorance, but eventually revealed that she hacked into the city's holographic display system using etheric magic. She downplayed her actions as a simple hack and assured him that she hadn't done anything too impressive. Despite her innocent appearance, Makina was skilled in dangerous tasks and was accustomed to facing life-threatening situations. Eam is very strict about network systems and content filtering, which makes them her enemy, as she believes the internet should be a place of true freedom. What she did was more of a rebellion against this corrupt society. She is a brilliant hacker and a rebellious spirit, using her talents to fight against this oppressive system. Biltol then tells her that he is searching for a man named Marcus. If she had kept quiet about the name earlier, she now points to a building and informs him that Marcus, the CEO of Heavy Magic Industries, Ishimaru, can be found there. Biltol goes to the building and enters the company, At the receptionist asks him to state his business, but he doesn't respond. Instead, he asked her to inform Marcus of his presence, assuring her that Marcus will understand when she mentions the name Viltol. At that moment, Marcus's personal secretary, Kinwahara, approaches and introduces herself before leading Viltol to Marcus's office. On their way, Viltol notices something resembling a small bear hanging from Kinwahara's shirt, almost like a keychain. When he asks about it, she explains that it's the beloved mascot of Magic Industries, Ishimaru, and they are planning to build a movement around it in the near future because it's a truly unique creature. When Viltol finally meets Marcus, Marcus welcomes him and remarks that it has been a long time since their last encounter. He asks what brings Viltol here. Enraged, Viltol accuses Marcus of celebrating his defeat by Reki, but Marcus dismisses this, telling him to forget about it. Viltol then demands Marcus's help in rebuilding the Immortal Kingdom and dominating the world again. Marcus laughs mockingly and refuses, which enrages Viltol. Viltol attempts to strike Marcus, but Kinwahara intervenes, wounding him with her sword. However, Marcus orders her to step back and then addresses Viltol, pointing out how weak he has become. He notes that such a wound would have healed instantly in the past without shedding a drop of blood. Marcus mocks Viltol further, questioning how he expects to conquer the world when the fear and reverence he once commanded have disappeared. Marcus continues to taunt Viltol, refusing to bow to someone as weak as him. He tells Viltol to leave unless he begs, at which point he might reconsider. Furious, Viltol declares that Marcus cannot defeat him. He prepares to attack, but Marcus quickly uses spell-breaking magic and laughs, saying Viltol is 2 steps too slow. Viltol then notices a small device attached to Marcus's back, and a screen appears. Marcus introduces the device as the Familia Magical Device, a cutting-edge creation of humanity's ingenuity in magical engineering. He explains that while casting magic usually requires 5 steps preparation, construction, expansion, the spell itself, and declaration of Familia allows users to skip the middle steps. Those implanted with Familia can activate magic with just a declaration. Marcus explains that the device allows people of all races and ages to use magic without incantations or spellcasting, making dreams a reality. However, he notes that Familia is incompatible with spiritually superior beings like Viltol, meaning he cannot use it. Implanting Familia in Viltol would strip him of his advantage. While Viltol's ability to process magic is impressive, Familia is much faster and has become essential in this modern world. Marcus reveals that he never liked Viltol from the start, admitting that he always resented Viltol's arrogance and superiority. He tells Viltol that he has served him out of hate for far too long. Shocked, Viltol asks if he has been blind all this time, and Marcus confirms it. Marcus then uses his magical sword to throw Viltol out of the building. Afterward, Marcus tells his assistant that now that the illusion of the former Demon King is gone, he will become the true Demon King. The assistant asks to discuss the marketing plan for Ishimaru, and Marcus replies that the ideas should be submitted at the next planning meeting. Outside, Viltol, badly beaten, wonders why he lost. A passerby mocks him, asking if he's cursing him after their collision. Viltol lies on the ground, stunned and weak. Machina rushes to him, crying, and pleads for him to cry with her. Viltol, saddened by how weak he has become, tells her that even if she had warned him about Marcus's betrayal earlier, he would have still confronted Marcus to confirm it for himself. They make their way to Machina's home, and Viltol praises her for securing a fortress-like shelter in this era. As they enter, Machina apologizes for the small size of her home, explaining that her salary is low. Viltol, moved by her loyalty, tells her that her faithfulness has left a deep impression on him. Overwhelmed, Machina bursts into tears, saying that his praise is more than she deserves. We then see that Machina is standing at the edge of the volcano as a crowd gathers around her, accusing her of being a demon and blaming her for the disaster that had befallen them. They shouted that she must be cast into hell and began throwing stones at her. However, her wounds healed instantly, as if nothing had happened. One man decided to push her into the volcano. He struck her with his staff, and she fell into the abyss. Just as she was falling, the Demon King appeared and saved her, pulling her back to safety. The crowd was terrified as they witnessed this. The Demon King looked at Machina and saw that she was a beautiful girl. He decided to invite her to join him and extended his hand. Machina agreed, and as she reached out to take his hand, she suddenly woke up from her dream. Realizing it was just a dream, she looked beside her and saw that the Demon King was still asleep. She then headed to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. After some time, she called upon Eleklit, informing her that it was the 13th day of the month of the dragon, in the age of integration 2099, and the time was 6:03 am. The weather was mild and warm. After about half an hour, Makina finished preparing breakfast and called out to Veltol, the Demon King. Surprised, he remarked that he had never seen such breakfast before and that it smelled wonderful. When he tried it, he was amazed by the taste, which made Makina very happy. After they finished eating and drank some tea, Valter asked her about the immortals. Makina explained that while there was no true immortal besides God, she knew others had survived the immortal hunt, just as she had. However, they had recently disappeared, and her closest eyes had lost contact with them. She hoped they were in a safe place. Veltol reassured her that the immortal hunt had ceased decades ago. It had been started to secure Marcus' position, and there was no reason for it to be revived. Makina then went to her aide's chambers after losing contact and found evidence of a battle inside. The only message left behind was a single phrase, "Friend Khalid." Upon hearing this, Veltol became tense and spilled his tea, but assured her that he was fine, even though some of his wounds from the previous day were still visible. He admitted that his strength had waned and that the power he had once possessed could clear the skies over the entire city if he were at full strength. However, he knew that it would take time to regain his powers, and he would need special training to recover fully. He asked Makina to accompany him on this journey, encouraging him so that he could complete his work perfectly. Using his powers, Veltol returned the spilled tea to the cup and commented that staying at home all day would only make him weaker. Makina suggested they go on a short shopping trip, and the Demon King agreed. They went into the city streets where the first task was to find new clothing for him. As they entered a clothing store, Veltol was astonished by the technology. Makina explained that they would perform a 3D sax beat, custom, cliasthym the highest quality. Veltol, confident in his physique, joked that he didn't need clothes to look good, saying he could walk around naked and people would admire his strong muscles. Makina quickly dismissed the idea, saying people would scold him and he would attract too much attention. She then asked if he had any preferences for color or style. Veltol left the choice up to her. Now, with the help of a store assistant, Makina selected practical and adaptable clothes that met all his criteria. Veltol was very happy with the design, calling it simple yet well-crafted. He noticed a symbol on the clothes and asked if it was a logo. So Makina explained that it was an ancient form of writing from a long-lost empire that once ruled the land. After securing his new clothes, they continued on their errands. Veltol was surprised that Makina hadn't offered any currency for the clothes. She explained that she had made an automatic digital payment, though Valter didn't fully understand the concept but went along with it. Now later they sat at a restaurant to enjoy a meal together. As they ate, Veltol asked Makina about the concept of familia. He was curious about it, especially after the rebellion led by Marcus. Makina explained that familia was a convenient and comfortable system used primarily for magic, but it also had other practical uses like gathering information, shopping, and communicating without the need to carry a physical device. Veltol asked Makina if he could touch the device implanted on her back, which made her blush. He also asked if it was uncomfortable to have the device attached to the back of her neck. Makina replied that it felt strange at first, but she eventually got used to it. Now, she found it difficult to live without the device. However, she added that owning one did not necessarily improve someone's life. After leaving the restaurant, Veltol told Makina that he wanted to find a job. This surprised Makina because she believed he didn't need to work. She had planned to support them both and was even willing to take on more jobs if necessary. Veltol, however, explained that times had changed. He couldn't let her do everything and felt it was time for him to contribute. He expressed that he hadn't given up the idea of conquering the world but was ready to find a job in the meantime. Makina agreed to his decision and asked if she could accompany him during his job search. Veltol declined, explaining that if he failed to find a job, he would rely on her income. Makina understood and handed him a device with a small amount of money, telling him that he could use it if he got hungry or if he needed to contact her. The device also had a tracker and an alarm function for emergencies. Veltol took the device and sat by the roadside, unsure of how to find a job. Eventually, he came across a small food stand and realized he was starving. He stood up and loudly announced that he was looking for work. A man approached and suggested that Veltol go to the trade guild if he had a citizen's ID. So when Veltol admitted he didn't have one, the man handed him a resume template and told him to take it to the guild. He also warned Veltol to avoid companies under the name. Veltol thanked the man and went to the trade guild. Once there, the guild employee reviewed his resume and asked about a skill called Dela. Veltol explained that Dela was capable of annihilating enemy forces on a wide scale. The employee also reported Veltol's military leadership experience, to which Veltol proudly confirmed his expertise in leading armies. He mentioned his accomplishments, including building the Fortress Damus and ruling a nation for 1,000 years. The employee pointed out that his last position was over 500 years ago, but Veltol explained that, from his perspective, no time had passed. Despite his impressive history, the guild declined to offer him a job, citing his lack of a familia. Disappointed, Veltol returned to Makina and asked her to check if something was wrong. He confessed that he was starting to lose confidence in his ability to adapt to this era. Makina reassured him, telling him that mortals were too foolish to understand his greatness and that he should not feel discouraged. Veltol, however, insisted that he needed advice and asked if Makina had any friends in this era. Makina said she had a friend she could call for help. She contacted her friend Takashi and arranged to meet her at a nearby cafe. When Takashi arrived, she greeted them and apologized for being late. It turned out that Veltol already knew her, and Takashi revealed that he had once tried to flirt with her. Veltol was surprised and asked how they had become friends. Takashi explained that she and Makina had first met on an Odom site related to matters concerning the Demon Lord. They also interacted in a creative fantasy role-playing chat room. Veltol noted that Takashi's familia was different from Makina's and mentioned that he had been trying to figure out how it was created. Makina explained that Veltol used his ability Ruler's Eyes to analyze the mana flow and understand the composition of things. Takashi then told Veltol that she had noticed he detected her programming hack. Veltol admitted that he had a general understanding of what was happening inside the familia, but there was still much he couldn't fully analyze. Makina urged Veltol to get to the point, and they asked Takashi for advice on finding Veltol a job. Veltol explained that he had been rejected by the guild because he lacked a familia and asked if Takashi had any ideas. After thinking it over, Takashi came up with a plan. The next scene shows Veltol hosting a YouTube show. Our episode begins with the Demon King, Vilto, watching television, completely captivated as it's his first time experiencing it. Takahashi explains to him that he's watching a live broadcast where people stream themselves playing video games, chatting, singing, and doing various activities to earn money through ads and viewer donations. Once they become popular, these streamers even start receiving real job offers. Vilto asks if it's something he could try, despite not fully grasping it, and Takahashi reassures him that it's quite simple. He offers Vilto his own, albeit slightly outdated, equipment, saying that once Vilto starts making money, he can upgrade to more modern gear. Makina, however, is against the idea, voicing her concerns that streaming is an uncertain and risky career path, especially since a channel could be shut down overnight. Takahashi counters her argument by highlighting Vilto's great personality and beautiful voice, which he believes would make him popular very quickly. Makina considers this and asks Vilto for his opinion. After a moment of silence, Vilto agrees to give it a try. The scene shifts to their home, where Vilto speaks to Makina about the Ethernet network, explaining how it allows people to share their opinions freely and quickly, which is entirely different from what he remembers. However, with such a fast-paced flow of information, it becomes nearly impossible for people to distinguish truth from falsehood. This tendency leads them toward a collective consciousness where individuality is lost under the guise of freedom. He warns that their shared awareness is often tainted with laziness and malice, ultimately pulling them down. Vilto hints that, in this environment, he could potentially guide the world to his advantage. When he looks at Makina, though, he finds her sipping juice and not paying attention. She apologizes and assures him she's deeply sorry. Vilto tells her to stand up, saying that such behavior doesn't suit her. Grateful, she thanks him, mentioning how she's been alone for so long and his presence is now a great comfort. Later, Takahashi arrives with the streaming equipment, delivering it via drones and assuring them it should be sufficient to get started. Makina, however, is still unsure and questions how live streaming could even generate money. Takahashi reassures her, saying, "You have to trust me more, Makina. We've been friends since childhood. Come on, Vilto, let's give it a try." Vilto powers up the computer, grabs the controller, and chooses a game, but he immediately loses in the first round. Laughing, he admits it's harder than it looks, yet he persists, retrying the challenging game only to keep losing. Makina tells him his chances of success look slim if he keeps losing like this. Takahashi, however, sees potential in Vilto's struggles, saying they could be endearing, especially given Vilto's good looks and charismatic voice. He adds that Vilto's gaming skills will improve over time. Makina reminds them not to take the streaming lightly, noting that around 5 million streamers exist globally. yet less than 1% make a comfortable living. They brainstorm an introduction for Vilto's stream, and Makina suggests he start with one of his wartime statements. Vilto gives it a try, saying, "Foolish visitors, tremble and await my presence. I am the Demon King of Nations, and I will grant you the greatest moment in your limited lives as I unleash the chaos of war." Makina applauds his dramatic delivery, while Takahashi agrees they're on the right track, though he suggests making it a bit more entertaining. Takahashi teaches Vilto the basics of streaming, explaining that consistent daily streaming will help the channel grow faster. He advises Vilto to keep talking, even if no one is watching, focusing on discussing the game's content rather than staying silent. He also warns against any sexual or discriminatory behavior, as it could lead to negative consequences, potentially even a ban. Additionally, Takahashi advises Makina to avoid making any loud sounds during the stream. Promising to promote the channel himself, Takahashi commits to covering all the initial costs. Vilto launches his streaming channel, and his subscriber count starts to rise. However, viewers criticize and insult him for his poor gaming skills, calling him an idiot and questioning which era he comes from. Some even block him, but Vilto ignores the negativity, acting as if it doesn't bother him. His subscriber count continues to grow regardless. Day by day, Vilto improves his gaming skills and learns more about streaming. Makina feels sad to see him treated so poorly by viewers, but Vilto reassures her, saying, "I've gotten used to it, my dear, and I know nothing comes easy. This is only the beginning." Within a few days, or perhaps 10, Vilto's subscribers reach 1 million. Excitedly, he greets his audience, saying, "Welcome, my additional fools. How was your day? I am the Demon King Vilto." He starts a new game called Boldy Spirit, and his enthusiasm quickly wins over his viewers. Later, Makina enters their home, and noticing Vilto's excitement, feels reassured that he's finding acceptance among his audience. She tells him she'll prepare dinner and wait for him, while Vilto decides to take a short walk around the city. During his stroll, he encounters someone he seems to recognize from his past. It's Graham. The story then flashes back over 500 years to when Graham was caring for his sick sister, promising to find healing herbs for her. Armed with a sword from his father to protect him from the monsters in the forest, Graham ventured into the woods, found some herbs, and, on his return, encountered a horde of lizard men from one of the 6 dark clans. Returning to the present, Graham sits with Vilto, and Vilto comments on how much better the food tastes now compared to his memories of the past. The scene begins with Graham, who expresses his disbelief, saying that he can't believe he's sitting next to the enemy who once killed his family and friends. Vilto responds calmly, admitting that he shares a similar feeling, having lost countless followers himself. He clarifies that he no longer harbors any anger or hatred, though he is curious about why Graham is still alive and what he's doing here. Graham explains that although he defeated Vilto, he didn't gain immortality. Instead, he received the blessing of eternal youth, which isn't the same as true immortality. After returning, he was banished from his homeland and ended up taking countless lives, both mortal and immortal. Graham confides that the world no longer has a place for a hero like him. He then questions Vilto's motives, asking why he sought to control the world. Vilto answers that he pursued control to bring peace to the world. He mentions that various elements, such as the phoenix and magic, grant immortality, noting that all immortals were once mortal. People called them the Dark Ones, yet they were fundamentally similar to mortals. Despite this, mortals feared, envied, and persecuted them. Vilto saw it as his duty to rise to the challenge to prevent such conflict among the weak, which is his version of peace. Graham disagrees with Vilto's justification, noting that they've known these things for over 500 years. With that, Graham thanks Vilto for the meal and leaves. The scene shifts to Vilto walking down the street. He overhears Takahashi arguing with someone who insists he needs double the payment if they're to face the Yakuza. The man warns that if Takahashi refuses, she'll have to find someone else, assuming anyone else is willing. Takahashi angrily retorts, calling him a brute and accusing him of cowardice. The man, enraged, nearly strikes her, but Vilto steps in just in time, grabbing his hand to protect Takahashi. Vilto demands that the giant step back, saying he'll overlook the disrespect this time. The giant, recognizing Vilto, taunts him by recalling how he once defeated him and threatens to kill him now. Takahashi urges Vilto to run, but Vilto insists that this is the perfect opportunity to test his strength, which he's gained from his 1 million subscribers. The giant throws a powerful punch, but Vilto easily blocks it and counters with a crushing blow, leaving the giant on the ground and unable to move. Takahashi, now relieved, thanks Vilto for saving her, explaining that the giant was supposed to be her bodyguard but constantly sabotaged her efforts. She says she has found a better bodyguard in Vilto and offers to pay him for the job. In a separate scene, Kinohara reports to her leader, stating that they completed the cleansing operation and the plan is progressing smoothly. She adds that they're close to creating a halo effect, and once ready, she'll head to the location herself. Her leader responds that he will join as well. Returning to Vilto and Takahashi, Vilto asks about her line of work. Takahashi reveals that she's involved in theft. Intrigued, Vilto suggests that all he needs to do is provide a distraction so she can steal safely. Thrilled by his quick understanding, Takahashi begins scouting the area. However, Vilto takes an unexpected approach, breaking down an iron wall and grabbing their target, throwing him to the ground with astonishing strength. Takahashi is left amazed by his power. Our episode begins with Takahashi observing the villains through an electronic screen. She zooms in on a box next to them and says, "This is the cube that must be stolen." She then says to the Demon King, "The first thought you didn't have a familia, yet you restored the ethereal connections of the familia using magic." We then see the villain leader ask Viltol, "Who are you, scoundrel?" Viltol tells them he is the Demon King, to which they respond, "Are you mocking us, man?" Viltol replies that he will use them as a test to restore his faith. One of the villains insults him, and Viltol says, "I do not tolerate insults." The leader pulls out a gun and fires at Viltol, but Viltol uses his magic to protect himself and defeats them all. Then Viltol grabs the gun, inserts a card into it, and Takahashi says to him, "Let's go steal the box." Suddenly, something strange happens around them, throwing Viltol back. A massive monster called Magino Gearforth, part of the city's special forces, appears before him. Takahashi is surprised, wondering how the gang leader has such a powerful creature personally. Viltol decides to face it, seeing this as an important test of his strength. He fires at the monster, and it prepares to attack, unleashing a series of powerful assaults. Viltol counters with a ray attack, saying, "I didn't think this would be enough to defeat such a monster." But suddenly the monster retaliates with an attack, which Viltol dodges. Vile comments, "With all my strength, I could have pierced through this easily. I suppose this is the limit of faith from 1,000,000 weak subscribers." Although he might lose those subscribers, he doesn't mind enjoying a little fun. He changes his clothes into those of the Demon King, and the monster also readies itself. The monster tells him, "This will be very bad for you, Vito," and the battle begins between them. The monster uses a family power to decapitate Viltol, thinking it has won. But Viltol's head, lying on the ground, speaks, "It's too early for that." His body moves toward his head, reattaching it. Viltol then raises his sword, releasing immense power, and attacks the monster, severing its arms and legs, ultimately defeating it. He says, "That was an enjoyable battle. Now it's time to talk." The monster contacts its owner saying, "The target is alive, I couldn't defeat him, and I am unable to fight any longer, so I will execute code 8090. The scene shifts to Viltol holding the small cube, when Takahashi arrives and remarks that watching his fight with the monster was terrifying. Viltol responds, "I'm surprised that weapons can enhance a person's strength to this extent." What a frightening era. Takahashi adds that things are getting increasingly suspicious and mysterious, making her wonder if this mission was far riskier than she initially thought, and that it shouldn't be ignored so easily. Viltol then asks her about the cube, so Takahashi takes it and explains it's a data storage device made from mithril, and that her client wanted the files inside it. She opens the device and discovers data revealing a list of candidates. Viltol comments, "These are the servants, the long-lived ones." Takahashi tries to contact her client for more information but can't reach him as he rarely accepts calls from others. It seems they'll have to meet him in person. They arrive at a massive building where her client resides on the 13th floor. He's quite well known. Anyone involved in that kind of work in the city recognizes his name. They enter the building and reach the elevator, but Viltol stops Takahashi saying, "Let me press the button. I really like buttons." He presses it once, twice, 3 times. Takahashi explains he can't go directly to the 13th floor. He must first press the 2nd floor, then the 17th, and then the 13th, as it's linked to the security system. Finally, they arrive at the client's place. However, he's a cautious man who has traps set up everywhere, so they proceed carefully. But Viltol assures her there are no traps there, and that he can easily detect them with infrared rays. He scans the area thoroughly and finds nothing. Oddly, the door is open and there's a foul smell lingering. It seems no one is home. They enter the room and find him sitting in a chair, but as Takahashi approaches and moves the chair, she discovers he's dead. The Demon King, Viltol, steps closer, saying, "This face, I think I've seen it once before, though he wore shabby clothes back then." It seems he enjoyed disguises. Takahashi confirms, explaining that he used to gather information directly from the streets. Upon closer inspection, Viltol notices he was stabbed in the heart and neck by a blade just days ago. However, the murder wasn't out of hostility. It was a highly professional kill. Understanding this, Takahashi realizes he was likely killed by a skilled assassin or a professional with a vendetta. Viltol then asks if it was necessary to destroy his familia. Takahashi suggests it might have been incidental. If murder was the only goal, merely destroying the heart would have sufficed for any mortal. The true aim seems to have been to erase any information connected to his familia. Takahashi then considers that this may be related to a job she took on just a week before his death. She suggests that the list they found might be their only lead, but Viltol disagrees, indicating there's another option. Takahashi recalls that EGO, a well-known information broker and skilled etheric hacker, may have a role in this. Given that the familia is always connected to the network, hiding data there would be impractical. She concludes that EGO must have stored the information on a separate device. She accesses his computer, which surprisingly opens without requiring a password. But when she examines the files, she finds them all corrupted. Viltol asks her to analyze the file arrangement within the folders. Takahashi realizes it's a program matrix, and she notices something embedded in the files. A video of EGO appears where he speaks directly to the viewer, stating that if they're watching this, he is already dead. EGO then unveils a shocking truth. The prosperity of Shinjuku relies on a sinister power source. The city's core infrastructure is powered by an etheric reactor beneath it, which draws energy from innocent souls. The reactor feeds on etheric lines crisscrossing the land, sustained by the planet's core, converting this energy into both magic and electricity. To produce enough energy for a city the size of Shinjuku, the reactor would need to be placed over nearly 10 overlapping etheric lines. However, a geological survey conducted before Shinjuku's first war found only 2 etheric lines running beneath the reactor within the city. This discrepancy raises a critical question. How does Shinjuku maintain sufficient energy with only 2 etheric lines? Since electricity remains stable in colder regions, an alternative power source must be filling the gap. This led to the creation of the Eternal Furnace project. The furnace consumes immortals like firewood. It's a magical, ritual device that sacrifices souls to produce ether for the city. Because immortals are closer to higher spiritual beings, a single immortal soul yields as much ether as tens of thousands of mortal souls. The stronger the immortal, the more energy they produce. The data shows that low-income workers, the homeless and outsiders were gathered to construct the furnace, only to be killed. Those behind Essity view immortals as fuel, even referring to them as firewood. Through his research, EGO discovered that the first firewood fed to the furnace was Rainal, the Sword of Salvation, one of the 6 Peers of Darkness, and an ancient immortal. Hunts for immortals have been taking place worldwide. 3 months ago, while gathering information, EGO encountered an Ami assassin. Though he managed to escape, their tightened security hindered his progress. He managed to hire a hacker friend, who discovered that the Yakuza Guild planned to sell a list of immortal names to AT, likely because their stock of firewood was running low, and the Eternal Furnace was on the brink of failing. Shutting it down would be like stopping Shinjuku's heartbeat. EGO believed that the Eternal Furnace should not exist. He stored all the data he gathered on this personal computer. He leaves the decision in the viewer's hands, apologizing for the burden, though he believes that only the legendary Demon King, who once ruled over all immortals, could resolve such a crisis in this era. After the video ends, Takahashi reacts with, "This is unforgivable." Viltol asks her, should we release this information online? What would happen to Shinjuku's residents if the Eternal Furnace were shut down? He warns her that, like EGO, she might be killed and that all the data could be erased. He states that this issue concerns immortals and, as their ruler, it is his duty to act. "You don't need to worry. I will make all the decisions," she replies. She then suggests reporting the body to the city guards. Viltol replies, "I need to inform Makina about this," but something shocks him and the episode ends there. If you enjoyed the video, remember to subscribe and activate the bell to stay updated.